What's up? How you doing? Sunday, and today we're gonna make ribs, pork ribs. So I'm gonna put a little olive oil, and then I'm gonna put the rub on. Rub it in. Closed it. You know, my hands go over these bones and they feel like sharp metal. Should have a machine that smooths these down, like sandpaper or something. All right, so I'll be back in a second here. Okay, now we're gonna add the dry rub, and just a little bit disclosure, I'm not really a rib guy. I think I've had ribs, I don't know, maybe a couple of times in my life. So my family eats this. I may have some today, I don't know, but I'm not really a rib guy. Even when I was little, I thought that the ribs, unnecessary. You know, I'm more like the steak, ribeye, New York strip, filet mignon, flat iron steak. All right, I got the rub in. I'm going to cut these in half because they're a little bit long. So. What's up? Here we are. I put the ribs in the oven, so it's going to take some time, but eventually we're going to eat some ribs tonight. And I think I'm going to have some. I'm going to have some, even though I'm not a big fan of ribs. Too much work. Little meat, a lot of bone. You know, sometimes you think you should eat the bone instead. There's more bone than meat. But anyway, they're in the oven. So right now I have in my hand Taxi Driver. I'm a big fan of this movie. And this is the 40th anniversary edition. So it has interviews and a whole bunch of special features. Haven't opened it yet. Still sealed, but big fan of this movie, and I'm a big fan of Deer Hunter. Those two movies are just beyond awesome. Great story, great cinematography, you know, just top of the line movies. But watch that later. There was a time in my youth when I was a huge, and I can't overstate this enough, I was a huge basketball fan. I loved watching Dr. J. He invented flight. I mean, there's a lot of guys that do that now, but he kind of invented that, and he was very exciting to watch. 76ers, great team. LA Lakers, Boston Celtics. I remember being in school and thinking, I'd look at the schedule and I'd say, oh, there's a game tonight, and I'd be all euphoric all day because I'd go home, and at 7:30 they had the pre-game thing going, and then they'd start the game like 15 minutes later, and I couldn't wait to get home, and I'd get my snacks ready, and I'd go in my room, turn my black and white television on. I had a Zenith back in those days. It would take like a minute to heat up, and I'd watch the game. I loved basketball. And in my neighborhood, there was a store that used to sell these like basketball cards. They were like the equivalent of baseball cards. So I'd go down there and buy a packet, and each packet had a stick of gum, some cards in it, and it also had a poster about that size of a team. It was all random. So I used to go down there and buy them until I collected them all, and had them all nice and smooth, on my desk. And I was a fan, big fan. Like I said, Dr. J, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Robert Parrish. I was a fan of everybody. Loved watching, loved watching the sport. And that lasted for about 10 years. And then all the players I liked, they started to retire. And there was a bit of a drop for me, back then. I didn't know. The new players were not as good. And kind of lost interest. But tonight, Celtics versus Heat, Game 7, I'm going to listen to it on the radio. And I want to say that, let there be no doubt, the best sports announcer for basketball, the best, Johnny Most. You got other guys that did a great job too. Chick Hearn. There's a lot of guys, but Johnny Most was above all of them. The excitement, the knowledge, I mean, he was just beyond belief. In my time, you would shut the volume off on the television set and turn the volume on the radio and listen to Johnny Most do the play-by-play. Although I will say that I'm a fan of Bob Cousy, and he used to do the analysis too, and I'd listen to him. Big fan of Bob Cousy, and he's still around, Bob Cousy. So I'll listen to that in a bit. But getting back to Taxi Driver, I have a friend who's a cab driver, been driving a cab for 60 plus years, a long time. Charlie DiGiovanni. And he drives those old-fashioned, those 1950s cabs. Still drives the same one. Had the engine rebuilt a couple of times. Same cab. And he actually saved me one time. I was walking home, had no money. I was far away from home on one of those dark streets. And then the lights from behind me showed up. And it stopped, and I turned around to see what was going on. It was a cab. Dude rolls down the window, and he says, "You need a ride?" And I said, "I need a ride, but I don't have any money." And he said, "Don't worry about it. Get in. Where you going?" And I told him, and then he told me a story about a long time ago. He was in the same situation on the same road, same exact spot, and a woman cab driver pulled up and gave him a ride home, even though he had no money, and she didn't charge him. So he said, "I've been looking for years to return the favor." And he goes, "I always pass by this road looking for somebody." And he goes, "Here you are." And I said, "Here I am." And he gave me a ride, and we became friends, and that was many, many, many years ago. And since that time, he's given me many rides. I paid for those. But he's a great cab driver, a lot of stories. You get in the cab with him, and he's always got a good story to tell you. Charlie DiGiovanni, 60 years experience. As a matter of fact, he just got an award for 60 years of service driving a cab. So anyway, long time. I recommend this movie. So let's see what's going on here.
Friends, ever heard the grass is always greener on the other side?
Commercial.
If you're in a dead-end job, you want greener grass. Well, My Computer Career can help. In months, not years, they can give you a new life as an IT pro. You learn from home by taking classes live online. Financial aid is available to those who qualify. And My Computer Career offers lifetime career services, which help.
It's a commercial. Yep. But I was also a boxing fan, I mentioned before. Huge boxing fan. Me and my father. Oh yeah, here's the thing about basketball. So I started watching basketball, and then a few years into it, my parents, they became fans, you know, because I would be in the kitchen eating dinner and I'd put it on. And then slowly, even though my mother and father were never basketball fans, they slowly became basketball fans. And then they were the ones, you know, looking for the game. But yeah, it took a few years, but eventually, you know, they became fans. And so we'd sit at the kitchen table after eating, you know, a pile of spaghetti, and we'd watch a game together. It was very enjoyable. But with my father, Tuesday night fights and every single championship fight of our time, we saw. We never missed anything. But Tuesday night fights was free, and we'd watch those. But in the 70s, I'd watch boxing with my father, and those were free also. ABC Wide World of Sports carried them. My father was a huge Muhammad Ali fan. Huge. He liked Ali's style. You know, technician, he said. I liked him too. Thought Muhammad Ali was, you know, a fantastic boxer, and he would have been even better, but he had that 3-year situation with the Vietnam War, and that was his prime. That was his prime. Had he boxed during that time, he would have been even better. And of course, I'm a huge Mike Tyson fan. Now, a lot of people, you know, I don't know if that's still the case today, but originally maybe they thought Mike Tyson was not a sharp, you know, mind. Mike Tyson is smart. You listen to him talk, he's very philosophical, he's very intelligent. You know, boxing did not diminish that. Very intelligent guy. Yeah, great fighter though, great style. He had that Rocky Marciano way of fighting. Same with Joe Frazier. You know, they smother you. Great fighter. There's a few guys like that. Marvin Hagler was another one. Jack Dempsey was a great fighter. Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearns, George Foreman. I mean, he had power. He didn't have stamina though. You know, so if you could take George Foreman, you know, 7th, 8th round without getting knocked out, you could beat him. His stamina was horrible. And that's what Muhammad Ali did. You know, in Manila. Oh no, not Manila. The Rumble in the Jungle was Foreman. And he took him past the 7th round, exhausted Foreman, and then he knocked him out. He knocked him out. But you notice that Ali never gave Foreman a rematch. He knew that the rope-a-dope would only work once. And then after that, Foreman would go after him in the first 3 rounds and probably knock him out. I mean, Foreman was a vicious fighter. Vicious fighter. He's got one of the highest knockout percentages in boxing. And I loved watching him. You know, I remember years ago, I was in my room and I used to get the Ringside magazine there. And I was thinking about him. I was thinking, like, I think I saw maybe an old episode of Sanford and Son that he was on. And I said, whatever happened to George Foreman? And just as I'm thinking that very day, I was flipping through my magazine that I had just purchased. And in the back, the last page, was a little article and a picture of a gymnasium in some small town. and it says George Foreman making comeback. I was like, wow, I was just thinking about him. But I've always been a fan of his. He had the power. He didn't have the speed, but he had the power. You know, Ernie Shaver's another guy. Ken Norton. I like Ken Norton. Thing is, with Ken Norton, Ali can beat George Foreman, but he had a really hard time with Ken Norton. Ken Norton was really difficult, but George Foreman didn't have a hard time with Ken Norton. He could beat Ken Norton easily. Styles make fights, you know. Yep. So let's see what's going on here.
Free throws give him 19 points. Lead is still 13 for the Celtics. Jaylen Brown, right angle.
Celtics leading 13.
Passes it to White. He'll launch the three and he'll connect. Net barely quivered that time. 50-34 Boston.
Celtics have 7 threes, 7 for 14 to just 1 for 10 for Miami.
White's got 8 off.
I'm rooting for the
Butler runs
Celtics.
Right into Derek White. There's a block call from Scott Foster as White tried to defend, and Jimmy's going to get himself back to the line. That's 3 fouls now on Derek White.
29 of the 34 Miami Heat points have come between Jimmy and Bam. Jimmy will likely add to that here.
You mentioned off the top of the broadcast, Doris, that it was a matter of which team was more complete, getting play from others than their
Well, anyway,
stars.
I'm going to
And
listen,
so far,
and
Boston has provided that as Butler misses
I'll be
another
back.
free throw, his second miss in the last 2 trips.
It's unusual. They listened to every critique in every film session, and they grew from it. And the thing you like about both of those young men, Jason and
Well, the Celtics did it. But towards the end, it was iffy.